This is Zen Armageddon. My name is Chris Holland and welcome to the property. So today I spent most of my day piling rocks. I didn't bother filming it because you've already seen piling rocks, and well, it's piling rocks. By now I think I've got a good 8 or 10 piles, probably a good ton or two of rocks, a decent amount of thermal mass anyways. Most of what's lying on the ground around here. There's a few other places that I haven't piled yet, but I'll hopefully get to that tomorrow. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot in the last couple days is coming out here, that it takes me, 15, 20 minutes to walk up here from the road, depending. And it's starting to get unnecessarily tiring because I'm hauling up my gear every time. And thinking forward to this idea of, well, what happens if I have to haul gear in here at a moment's notice? That might be a problem. And what's more is that in the winter, hauling in gear means you're going to be leaving trails everywhere. And I don't necessarily want to leave a clear and defined path to where I'm storing some goods. I'm not going to be storing anything exceptionally valuable there, but I mean, it's important to me. And my experience is that, people are curious and they'll come and take a look and think, oh, well, maybe there's something valuable in that bin or whatever else, and they'll dig through it and, oh, there's nothing here, and then they'll just leave. But they'll leave all the stuff lying on the ground, and then the snow gets to it, it starts to rust if it's metal, and so forth and so on. Animals get at it. I want to try and build a shelter that will protect whatever I decide to put there, and in a pinch will also serve as a shelter for myself and my family if we really need. I guess what it's going to come down to is building a fort in the woods, but I'm doing it in a little bit more of a pragmatic mind, that I need to make sure that I'm able to build something that's going to withstand the weather. And it's, not uncommon to get 40, 50, 60 kilometer-an-hour winds here, and able to withstand the snow if I'm not able to come shed that snow on a regular basis, but also will serve other benefits, like having the thermal mass installed. There's a fireplace there that will allow me to stay warm, and at the same time that the design of the structure makes sure that the smoke doesn't stay within the shelter. So part and parcel with my piling rocks today, I've been doing a lot of walking around through this area. I don't want to install anything where the house is ultimately going to go, because I want to keep some degree of record of that process, that even though I may have a modern house here, you never know what's going to happen. So having a secondary place where you can go in a pinch is never a bad thing. So aside from not wanting to be where the house is, I also don't want to be on the very top of this ridge, because realistically, this is where it's going to get the most wind and the most snow, and I want to be somewhat sheltered from that. So other things that are affecting my decision making is that there's a reasonable amount of wood for building materials. The stone that I'm piling around here is relatively accessible, though once the snow's on the ground, then I can use a sled and I can move it around fairly easily, assuming I can actually get it off the ground. I want to be able to take advantage of the terrain, so that way I have to build as few walls as possible. So the way that the terrain comes, I'm about maybe 350 feet or so from where I want to build the house, and it's probably another 10 feet higher that way. And the land slopes down to this side, and we're on what amounts to a relatively sharp ridge that goes up this way. So on that side, there's a few places that might be okay, but my concern is that is on the east side of the structure, and so the winds are going to be coming from the west, and most of the snow is going to tend to go off that side and pile off, and potentially put snow loads that the structure won't handle. On the other side, on the west side, there's also possibility of some snow issues, but being on the wind side, it's less likely to be problematic in my mind. And also that I found, actually it's just behind me over here, there's actually a fairly sharp ridge, and that's what I'm going to use as a back wall. So let's go over there and take a look. Hopefully you can forgive the sound of the train in the back, but the light's starting to wane, so I only have so much time left that I can film. So we're on the top side of this little cliff. I guess it's 15, 20 feet high. That might be a little excessive, but you know, beggars can't be choosers, I suppose. So there's a crack up the middle of this rock right here that I think will make a easy place to put the fire pit, because it's a little bit more wedged in. So that way I'll get a better reflection from the two rock faces that make up this cliff. There's a few trees at the bottom that I'm probably gonna have to take down, because at least two of those birch are pretty dead. And the last thing I want to have happen is those fall on my head. So I'm going to get a couple of poles that I'm going to run between the cliff and somewhere along these trees. I'm not sure if I can actually use them for structure or not. And put a canopy over top that's leading towards this crack in the rock, so that way the smoke will come up along here. Before the snow flies, I'm going to make a little effort to just quickly clear away the leaves, so that way things don't start to burn up here. Not that it matters after the snow's flown, but you know, better safe than sorry. I'm thinking towards spring. And yeah, so that's it from up here. Let's take a look on the bottom side. Yeah, so this is the bottom side. I'm less convinced from down here because there's a pretty significant slope, and looking at it, the rock is what makes up most of this. But I think I can make it work, maybe even move it a little bit more that way. I definitely want to have a canopy over this area by the end of tomorrow, so that way at least I can get maybe a couple bins, and I can have things like, you know, a couple fire starters and some tinder and whatnot that's here, so that way that's that much less that I have to haul in here every time. And you know, the idea being that every single time I come in, I bring a little bit more stuff. So I've got, you know, eventually I have a little bit of food here, I have, you know, more tools here, and it's all properly stored, so that way I don't have to worry about the elements getting at it. It's less likely for people to find it. I don't really expect that many people to come in here, but also any animals won't be able to get at it. And that, I think, is the thing I'm most worried about. And it's not completely inaccessible. It's a little higher up. The ground continues to slope that way, so as the snow melts, the top of the rock is tilted back, so the water is going to tend to shed off either side, and it's going to shed away from here, so this area is going to stay relatively dry. There's a bit of mound under the camera from the root bundles for these trees, but minor detail. May have to dig a little bit of a trench to shed water if need be. I may also end up building a floor here, so that way I'm up off the ground, and I can put some pine boughs and whatnot underneath that, so I can have an insulated floor, so that way it's more comfortable. At some point this winter, I'm going to want to try and stay out here at least one night, if only just to remind myself of how miserable it can be when it's cold. But two, here that there's enough room that I can have a pile of wood off to one side that I can, you know, every time I come up here, I can cut more wood that I need, so that way I'm building up a stockpile of wood. And again, that it all comes back to, well, what happens if I have to come out here in a hurry? What happens if things go sideways in the city and myself and my family have to go somewhere? That we do have some choices, but I would say that for now that this is going to be fairly low on the list, because obviously it's roughing it. It's not exactly going to be a comfortable lifestyle, but it's going to be good to know that it exists. So that's it for today. Tomorrow, like I said, I'm going to come out and I'm going to, start building something. At least get a tarp up. See about getting a couple of these trees down. They're not small, so that's going to be a little bit tricky because I don't really want to haul in a chainsaw just yet. But yeah, there it is. So like, subscribe, give a comment down below, and we'll see you next time at the property.